Hey guys, back with the Watchmen. This is a different type of video for us. It's not one specific movie review. We're going to talk about some of our favorite movies, like a top 10 list, but no particular order. I have a top 25 list, and it was hard to pick just 10. So no particular order. If I start with one, that doesn't mean it's my 10th favorite.
Your top 25, all just like your 25 favorite, and none, you don't think any trumps the other?
It's
or just like...
I think there's definitely a top 10 that I like the most, but within that top 10, it's not like I'm saying, oh, this is definitely my favorite out of those.
I have a top 50 list, and all my top 10 are all tied for first. Is how I sort of rank mine. But yeah, what about you?
All right.
So what's one? No particular order.
No particular order. I have 7 of them here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I have 7 of them here. 3 I don't have on Blu-ray, unfortunately. Hopefully I'll get them soon. But my first movie I want to talk about is Spirited Away. Spirited Away is an animated movie. I'm sure it was up for a ton of Oscars when it originally came out. And it's a beautiful movie. The art... Studio Ghibli. They make great movies. The art is wonderful. The soundtrack is wonderful. I remember the first time watching it as a kid, I saw the cover and I was like, oh, I'm not really interested in that, but I gave it a shot, and it holds up today as one of my favorites. It's just impressive in every kind of way. It's one of the
few anime movies I actually really like. It's not my top 10. I definitely give it a 9 out of 10. I wouldn't give it... He loves it a lot more than I do.
It's a really good movie. Anyways.
But another one that I don't have, there's a few of them I don't have. So I don't have Perks of Being a Wallflower with me. The Perks of Being a Wallflower is like probably one of the best, or if not the best, coming-of-age movie I think any people will watch. It's not just like necessarily about the twist, it's just about the characters and the way they're all portrayed by each actor. You just love following Logan Lerman's character. He's just very interesting, and I don't know, it's just one of the best performed, most interesting, and makes you feel very nostalgic in a way when you're watching it. Just like watching these characters unfold and watching their relationships grow with each other. It's very interesting, and for the most part I feel like it's super realistic, and I really like Perks of Being a Wallflower. Definitely one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah. Nice. Another movie that I don't have but would be in my top 10. The next 2 I don't have either. They're both documentaries. But first one I'm going to talk about is Dear Zachary, and I think for the longest time it was on Netflix. I don't know if it still is on Netflix.
I think it is still.
But it's an incredible documentary. It basically, if you haven't heard of it, it's a kind of a murder mystery story, and it's where a filmmaker makes just kind of like a goodbye letter about his best friend who was murdered. And there's a huge, I don't know if to call it a twist, but there's a huge plot point that happens in this real life story. Like it feels like a movie. Like they made it up. There's no way this can be real, but it's a true story that happened, and it's insane. It's such a good documentary, and it's just such a good film in general. I highly recommend Dear Zachary.
I really like Dear Zachary. The problem is that there's not a lot of documentaries for me that really rank themselves up there amongst the best, but that's just me. And then another movie I don't have, unfortunately, stupid, is American Beauty. I love American Beauty. I remember it was like a movie that I only watched at least like a couple of years ago, but I knew there's a handful of movies, classics, there's this very small number where I know I'm going to like them, I know I'm going to like them, but for whatever reason I'm not motivated to watch them. I don't know why, it's really weird. But then I wanted to watch, I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm going to watch American Beauty. I fucking love it.
Yeah, American Beauty is really
so good. The characters are awesome, the tone is cool, it's got this very weird sort of dark comedic tone over the kind of painted over the top of it, which is very cool. I always really like movies like that.
It's too bad with the whole Kevin Spacey.
It's too bad with the whole Kevin Spacey thing, but either way, it's still a good movie.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that's not.
Yeah.
I'm saying it sucks what he did. Way to go, Kevin Spacey.
Thanks,
but
Kevin.
This is one of his best performances. I'd say
sure.
it's a great movie.
Great characters, just great overall. Absolutely fucking solid. What's yours?
Next movie on my list is the last movie that I don't have with me today, but it's another documentary. It's called How to Die in Oregon, and it's a documentary about physician-assisted suicide in Oregon, because that's one of the only states where it's legal. And I remember I had to write a paper last year for school, and I was looking for, what am I gonna write about? I need sources, blah blah blah, this is that. And I remember seeing this movie on some list somewhere about the best documentaries, and I was like, okay, hey, perfect, this fits. And I was expecting it just to be full of facts and, like a typical documentary, but no, it follows a couple people's stories in their journey to deciding if they want to go through with physician-assisted suicide. And I remember the first time I watched it, I was like sobbing in my bed at like 3 a.m. It's just a super emotional movie. It's so well made, and it sounds like it would be depressing or super sad, and I mean, in a way it is, but it's also, there's a happy feeling because it shows that these people going through physician-assisted suicide, this is a decision that they made in their head, and they're happy with their decision, and their family for the most part is there backing them, and it's super powerful, and it's a great documentary. I highly recommend How to Die in Oregon.
The other movie I don't have, and I feel dumb about, I was fairly sure I had it, but I don't, is La La Land. La La Land, obviously, I really wasn't expecting to like this movie. I'm not a huge fan of musicals, and this movie, for the most part, just kind of blindsided me of how good it was. Emma Watson, Emma Stone, so good in this movie. And Ryan Gosling goes off. It's insane. Damien Chazelle, he may be like
awesome.
I fucking love that dude. Like, where did he come from?
I don't know, but just the chemistry of their characters is so awesome.
Too,
the
so
music's
cool.
great. The whole movie's great. Yeah, that's
Such a great tone.
Yeah. I like musicals too, so I from the first trailer I was super excited for it, and it had exceeded my expectations. I agree, great movie. All right, starting with the movies that I have. The next movie I want to talk about is Schindler's List. This is in my top 10. This is another movie that I had to do a school project for. I think it was like 8th grade. We had to do a project, and I picked Schindler's List, and I had to watch it so many times, and I had to connect it to events that happened in real life.
Oh, based on if it was like realistic or not? Yeah.
And it's an excellent movie for the performances, and it gives you a scary, realistic view on the Holocaust and the events that happened during it. And it's just, I understand why it's so critically loved and acclaimed. It's just, it's an exceptional movie, and I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it.
This movie is also my top 10, but the thing is that Liam Neeson does such a great job. Him and Ben Kingsley, the two of them together.
And Ralph.
It's great. But and then it's Ray Fiennes.
Is it Ray?
Yeah, you see Ray Fiennes.
It's Ray.
Ray Fiennes,
Not Ralph,
even though
Ray.
he spells his name like it's basically just Ralph.
Yeah, it throws me off every time.
Ray Fiennes is shockingly
terrifying.
Intimidating and scary,
Yeah.
dude. It's insane, but it's so great. He's a great character. You know, it's a good sign when you love to hate a character. Do you know what I mean? Like a villain. Like
I know
a villain,
what
you
mean,
hate them,
but this dude was real.
I understand.
He's a real
but
person.
You love to hate them.
No.
I know, but I'm saying like the reason why you felt like he was such a good character, even if he was real or not, is that he's portrayed so well and so interesting.
Okay, it's just the word choice. I wouldn't say that I love this guy.
I definitely agree with the word. You don't love the guy, but you love to hate him.
I'm not saying that you like this guy. I'm just saying I understand what you're saying. I just needed clarification. Right. Okay, nice. Okay, so next movie on my list is Nebraska. This was the movie for me that kind of it kind of came out of nowhere. I wasn't like I hadn't really heard all that much about it, but I went and saw it with my parents, and it's excellent. I'd classify it as a dark dramedy. There's some laugh out loud funny parts, but then there's some emotional and tender parts, and it's just a great. Don't be thrown off if you don't like black and white movies. It's filmed in black and white, but it's modern. Don't worry. It's just kind of like a sleeper pick. It's not. It's an excellent movie, and I'd check it out if you haven't seen it. It's great.
Hopefully, everyone knew that this was most likely coming. But here's the one of the big boys out there. Okay, Empire Strikes Back. Obviously, you're a complete buffoon if you do not like Star Wars.
I don't like Star Wars.
This kid must have had the worst childhood of all time. My God.
Okay, here's the thing. People have different opinions. I don't have to like Star Wars, okay? I'm sorry that I don't like it. I don't like any of them. That's not a diss to you. I'm not dissing George Lucas. I'm not coming after him. I accept that I'm in the minority. I just don't care for Star Wars.
Strikes Back. Very great. I don't even need to say much more.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone knows. How do you not know Star Wars?
Some people don't. There's a lot of people I've ran into that don't. What you got?
Alright, next on my list is Inception. Inception is a great movie, has a great soundtrack. I love Hans Zimmer. I love the performances. I love Tom Hardy. I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I love Leonardo DiCaprio. The whole cast is fantastic. Cillian Murphy, great guy.
The Japanese actor?
I forget his name.
Crap.
But he's also in Letters to Iwo Jima, great actor. It's just an excellent movie. I love Christopher Nolan. I love his whole filmography, everything.
Watanabe.
There you go. Great performance. I love Christopher Nolan. I love his whole filmography. It's just a fantastic movie. Yes, it's confusing, but that shouldn't. I heard people that are.
Confusing.
Well, I've seen it like 7 times. It's not confusing after the first watch.
It's got a lot of layers to it.
Yeah, and I mean, don't let that throw you off. It's not like he's purposely making. It's not one of those movies where he's trying to be confusing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the plot. That's just how it is. But it's an excellent movie.
Also,
Fantastic.
one of my favorites. It's in my top 50, but it's not my top 10. Still love Inception. And then looky here.
Hey,
Got ourselves
Christopher Nolan.
another Christopher Nolan movie. But here's the thing. I'm one of those very small few people that really likes Dark Knight Rises more than Dark Knight. Here's the thing.
That's
Dark
surprising.
Knight. I know. Dark Knight. I love both of them so much, but Dark Knight Rises I like slightly more. But here's the thing. With Dark Knight, I love Heath Ledger's Joker. Obviously, he's absolutely great. I love the whole movie. The problem is that, when I compare it back to the Dark Knight Rises, the Dark Knight Rises even Tom Hardy's Bane is still a really strong character, but overall, the overarching plot and story and sort of the conclusion really got to me more than the Dark Knight as a whole. Dark Knight, obviously, still a very good movie. I love it. Still one of my 10s out of 10s, but it's not in my top 10. Just slightly above.
Disagree. I think Dark Knight Rises is a great movie, but I think just the Dark Knight is the villain does it for me. The Joker is so much better than Bane, in my opinion. And like I said, it's still a great movie. It's Christopher Nolan. I love Christopher Nolan, but Dark Knight takes it for me. Hey, Damien Chazelle. Next on my list is Whiplash. So Whiplash is incredible. I can't even remember how many times I've watched this movie, but every time Miles Teller does a great job, but J.K. Simmons, he makes the movie.
Yep.
His character it's about music. Like, you wouldn't expect it to be intense, but this is one of the most intense movies I've ever watched, especially in theaters. There's just so much I love about it. The music, the performances, the visuals. Damien Chazelle is incredible, and I can't wait to see what else he does. Whiplash is a can't miss.
Or shouldn't miss.
Shouldn't miss. How dare you miss it?
Looky here. We got Ridley Scott popping out. Alright. Got Gladiator. It's probably one of the easiest movies to rewatch. It's a little bit long for a movie to rewatch for most people. Either way, it's so good. The action, the acting, the structure, the characters, everything. Joaquin Phoenix and Russell Crowe just completely demolish in this movie. Joaquin Phoenix is so, you can tell
I love
he's
character.
having a mental breakdown the entire time. And I love Russell Crowe's story. It's such a great movie. Gladiator, absolutely superb.
Next on my list, honestly,
Not even open?
it's not even open. Look at that, collector's item. How about that? But this movie is incredible. Not only does it have one of my favorite soundtracks of any movie ever, one song in particular, Johnny Greenwood does the music. Fantastic guy. But
He didn't get the Oscar, right?
no, I don't think so.
I think it was
I can't
Shape
remember.
of Water.
Yeah, Shape. I was so disappointed that Shape of Water won Best Picture and not Phantom Thread. I think Phantom Thread
I think it was the hype around it.
was completely, it had the award stolen from it. I think Phantom Thread, from the performances, from the cinematography, from the costumes, from the music, deserved the Best Picture. But hey, I think a lot of people didn't see this movie, which is unfortunate.
A lot of people didn't see this movie.
It's so good. It's slow. Yes, it's a complete drama. There's not action.
It was in wide release for a very long time too.
But it's fantastic. It's fantastic. And Daniel Day-Lewis's last movie, because he retired from acting. I hope he comes back because he's a great actor. But truly an excellent film. Must see.
Lost in Translation. Another one of those movies that's like a very sort of, not really dark, but it's sort of a, what's the best word of it? It's
kind of bleak.
It's a bleak comedy. That's a better way to describe it. It's about two outsiders, or people that are definitely not from Japan. Bill Murray he plays a sort of dying down like movie star in the movie, his character, and then he runs into this woman who is there, which is Scarlett Johansson. She's like, I don't know, she was only like 20 or so in this movie, but she's there with like her like husband who's a photographer, but you can tell that their relationship, they aren't really that close. But point is, they sort of run into each other. It's not really a romance. It's a very different structure, and different approach between two characters coming across each other. It's not just their age gap, but they're each married, but it's just a very strange, very different, very cool sort of way of displaying a relationship between two people.
It's a really good movie.
In a place they aren't from or aren't familiar with.
Bill Murray, not my favorite, but he's great in this. And I just don't find him that funny. I don't find his older movies that funny. I don't find them, but he's great in this, and it's a great movie. I agree with your pick.
What else you got?
We're down to the last two. Clockwork Orange. So good. I know you don't really care for it all that much, but in my opinion, it's Kubrick's best movie. It's fantastic. Just the performances. It pushed the envelope when it was released. I can see why, but just the story and the different language that the characters speak in, and the cinematography and the music in this movie, the performances are incredible. And Clockwork Orange is just a weird, it'll take you on a trip. I don't know how to really describe it.
There's a handful of scenes I really like, but for the most part, overall, I don't really care for it.
I think it's excellent, and you gotta see it. Don't be thrown off that it's old. It's fantastic, and it holds up, and highly recommend.
Alright, we got The Pianist. Alright, such a good movie. Holy shit! This is probably, if like you had after like a decade or so, you had like a lineup of best performances by actors, like an Oscar sort of like championship round, where you had like all the best actor winners. They compare their movies to each other for like the decade. This big boy would take the prize. Adrian Brody would definitely take it.
I don't know about that.
What are you talking about?
It was fantastic, but think about all the good performances.
There's so many, you're right, but like in this movie,
he does do a really good job. I agree. He does do a really good job.
My gosh, but like this movie is so good, but here's the problem. I know some people aren't gonna like it because of how slow paced it is. I really like its pace. I know it's slow. It's slower than a lot of other movies, but I don't really care. It wasn't really a problem for me, but I know there's a lot of people.
Same type of thing with
very
Phantom
normal.
Thread.
Yeah, normal moviegoers for the most part are going to be pretty goddamn bored of this movie. Same thing with Phantom Thread, but overall, it's such a good movie.
It is. Okay, I don't know how many of you have heard about this movie.
Probably not very many.
Probably not very many. If you can handle extreme violence, please go out and watch this movie. I cannot.
Go find it somewhere.
Go find it. It is kind of hard to find.
Yeah.
But please go out and watch it. It is a Korean movie called I Saw the Devil, and this little puppy is my. I'm so glad that I ordered it off Amazon, I think. But this movie is unbelievable. The ending of this movie gives me chills every time, no matter how many times I've watched it. The relationship between the two characters, neither of them are good guys. They're both, well, one of them starts out as a good guy, but it's about a cop chasing down a serial killer who murdered his wife, and he works in the FBI. Well, it's not the FBI because it's in Korea, whatever their version of the FBI is. But it's
really good.
It's really good. The performances, the action, how the action sequences are filmed.
It's brutally hilarious in a weird way, if that makes any sense.
There's one scene, I know what you're talking about, there's one scene in particular that's so violent, and like the camera's like spinning around, and it's just, I couldn't believe what I was watching. It's still, it's a fun movie in the way that it's not...
It doesn't let up, though.
The whole thing, it's from the start to end, it's unbelievable. It's so good. You gotta watch I Saw the Devil.
People gotta watch more Korean movies.
Koreans make really good movies.
There's a lot of good Korean movies out there.
But this one, they're said to be making an American remake, and I don't know how to feel about that.
I don't know. Don't be too excited.
I hope that it's okay at least. I hope they don't butcher it. But check out I Saw the Devil, please.
Here we go. The last big boy. Yeah, Return of the King. Alright. I love Lord of the Rings. It's so good. Everyone knows it is. And like altogether,
how many Oscars did they win?
I don't know, it's over 20.
Yeah, it's
over 20, all three movies
Yeah.
combined. That's ridiculous. But they're so good. Unfortunately, it wasn't really ever for any performances.
I mean, I can understand why. The performances are
Ian
good.
McKellen goes off in these movies.
But
And-
great movies,
And,
yeah.
what's his name? Elijah Wood, too. But anyways, Return of the King. I really like, here, my order for the three is, I really like Return of the King the most, Two Towers, and then Fellowship of the Ring. All three of them I like a lot. I love all three of them a lot, but that's just my ranking. I know you like...
I think Two Towers is my
Fellowship.
least favorite. Yeah, Return of the King and Fellowship are pretty close for me. But yeah, they're great movies. This is one, there was Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter were two of the first series that I ever really got into. Yeah, great movies.
Yep. Alright, there we go.
Well, thanks for joining us. I know this is probably a longer
This is going to be quick.
video.
Should we split it in two? I don't know.
No.
Alright.
But those
Yeah.
were our top 10 in no particular order. Thank you for joining us in this
Don't
journey.
forget to smack
Like
that
and
little
subscribe.
thing, smack that
Follow
button.
us on Instagram now. Watchmen_reviews. We got an Instagram
I
page
prefer
now.
a subscription, to be honest, but
Yeah, but follow us on Instagram still. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully you go out and see these movies that you haven't seen,
Find
because
us
all of
somewhere.
them are worth it,
that's right.
except for maybe Star Wars. But I'm sure all of you
Please
have seen
stop. It's the worst thing
it.
you've
Okay,
said.
bye!
Okay, bye!